But this time, you're dealing with almost like a human counterpart. ChatGPT can generate misinformation, can hallucinate, and then because it is not aware of the context, and that's how the technology works. People are not very acutely aware of the damages this can do until the visual AI comes in, and that's a lot more alarming. It's really about how how people should think about AI. Do they have to be a technical person to really engage with AI? I was one of the very first to use neural networks when I was at Cambridge doing a master's. So how should people think about AI? Like I said, it's that counterpart to human that acts and behaves like a human, but should no longer be human.
Well, today I'm here with Professor Yi-Zhe, co-director of Surrey's People-Centered AI Institute and the director of SketchX Lab, co-director of UKRI AI, CDT and Digital Media Inclusion. What's your speciality?
Treat me as an AI nerd. That's what I keep telling people. And if you imagine, I've been doing this maybe since I was an undergraduate. I was one of the very first to use neural networks when I was at Cambridge doing a master's. Actually, I won the best dissertation there that year, so it's 2004. So a long time, like 20 plus years doing AI. But only brand myself as a professor for AI since ChatGPT happened. Because before that, AI wasn't a thing. AI was very much a remote technical, existent, only for people like nerds like me. But since ChatGPT, sort of like got, rushed into our lives and really have an impact on everyone, then I think people know how real AI is. But really for me is started as a technical person who does AI, but very much concentrated on the visual elements, what we call computer vision, is how we can teach computers to see and sense like humans do. But that's a very important part of AI now, because if you think about self-driving cars, it's really allowing cars to see like humans do and act like humans do. So yes, so from a technical AI person to now driving research institutes and labs and then training centers to teach people about the technical elements of AI. But probably more importantly, you mentioned the word inclusion, which is actually the PhD training center that I co-lead. Is really about how how people should think about AI. Do they have to be a technical person to really engage with AI? And then the answer I can tell you is no, because like I mentioned, it's in everybody's lives now. No? So, but then what are the things that people should think about when they hear about AI? Should it be fear? Should it be math? Should it be all the things that they don't know or should it be empowerment? Should it be control? Should it be privacy? Should it be sustainability? That is where I call myself AI professor. Is I want to really make people think on the latter terms, other than AI is a technical thing.
Because it is a very interesting time. I mean, if we look at the Industrial Revolution, it was very physical in nature. The next major revolution would be the Internet revolution, which was about data. But the AI revolution, is a completely different quantum, because replicating the ability to think, to communicate, Considering all of these aspects, how would you communicate to someone what AI is?
Yep. That's a very good question. So before I answer that, I think I want to mention that, which touches on what you just said. I think AI just started. The technical elements of AI has been progressing over, 10, 20 years. Right? I've been, riding that journey for the last 20 plus years. But now is suddenly human level. So I think this is a major difference. Because you mentioned all the the revolutions that you mentioned already, but this time you're dealing with almost like a human counterpart. Now that then is how I want to define AI. Is a counterpart. Is that call a friend that you always wanted, and this goes for individuals. Also goes to enterprises, companies.
Yeah.
That oracle that always knows where the problems are, how to solve it, and then have that in a timely manner. And then for individuals, how can obviously ChatGPT, how can we write poems? How can we streamline, like proofread, and so on and so forth. So it's really almost like the human counterpart. So that is my two words definition of AI, and that's what everybody should think AI as. It's not the cars anymore. It's not the machineries anymore. It's something that at human level that can communicate with you, that can help you to do certain tasks, and also companies, enterprises to make the decisions.
And something which personally I don't feel has been communicated or explored well is the concept of value. And that is very much in the context of the individual. If we all found everything valuable, we would all like the same food, wear the same clothes, everything would be the same. We'd all have the same job, and life would be very boring. How do we define value? Again, we've discussed convenience. If we look at the history of convenience, fast food has turned out not to be particularly great for you. Fast fashion, perhaps not ecologically brilliant. Ride hire companies, who then extend to delivery companies. But the conditions and the legalities around the kind of gig economy, well, that's not great for them. So the idea of value to whom and at what cost? And if we're sold convenience, which seems to be the ChatGPT avenue, history tells us there's a lot of consequences yet to come.
And I see the value of AI to be in line with all the major inventions we had as humanity over the years, is empowerment. So machineries, empower us to make things faster. Cars empower us to travel easier, faster as well. And AI as well. It will empower us to do the tasks, enterprises, to make decisions in a more accurate and more efficient and more productive manner.
Now let's dig a bit deeper into sketch labs, because I think this is a fascinating view, interacting with the human experience.
Yep. Very good question. So because that is very much connected with empowerment. So a part of empowerment is not to say, do this for me, and then I do nothing else. That is not how humanity should progress. Because if that is the value of AI, then humanity it gets kicked off Earth. Why we started SketchX Lab, this line of research, is to control that empowerment. It's like how you have steering wheels on cars.
It's an orchestration.
Absolutely. So how do we want to work with AI to achieve personalized targets? So cars, everybody driving to different directions. same thing. And then that is SketchX Lab. Is about, look, human will communicate different ways. Do we have to both speak English to connect? Yes, it's convenient, but like music, for example, movies. I mean, they go across cultural boundaries, countries, right? And even by looking at somebody in the eye, you can guess their intentions, no? So that is the sort of empowerment, the control that, ways that we should work, enable AI to work with us. So text, yes, that's what everybody uses, in English mainly, but sketching, how we can, people thousands of years ago in the French caves, right? You have recordings of live events carved on the walls of the cave. That sort of thing, right? That if anybody from any country, any culture, look at that painting, that drawing from thousands of years ago, will still remember. Oh, actually, without like language barriers. And then so that is that control, to personalize your own empowerment. That is what drove me 10 plus years ago to really study sketches. And we were very early in that field, and it did take 10 plus years to convince people that this is actually a worthy research direction. But now, yes, now we are ready to fame. But in the old days, there weren't any of that. But I think same thing goes to AI. We're driven by the hypes now. Everybody is using ChatGPT or ChatGPT equivalent, doing whatever, helping them with. But then the problem we mentioned, at what consequences? The 500 billion that the US government is putting in. What's the footprint of electricity, carbon?
One of the things that I know that you've been heavily involved in working with, and we're beginning to see now, is the incredible efficiency in training and the ability of new models and new methods of AI, which call into question, do we really need such massive infrastructure and such massive energy demand?
Yeah, that is probably the most important question to me, personally. What AI does nowadays is create boundaries that is exclusive. So when you see the 500 billion figure, or the 14 billion the UK government is putting in, what does it say? It says, if you don't have that, you are not in AI. And that's just wrong. So AI, for it to really be that core friend, to really be part of our lives, needs to be democratized. And then the way AI can be democratized is, imagine it running on your own laptop, which is not connected to the cloud.
Also brings in privacy, security,
Absolutely.
all these other
Absolutely.
benefits.
And everybody can afford it. It's like everybody can afford a laptop, everybody can afford a phone. Not the 500 billion scary figure. So that's the what I personally do not want people to think, and that's what we're driving the research to achieve that AI democratization goal. We want to put models that can be run on your laptop, which might not be the latest, and I want AI to be as good as those that's run or trained on the $500 billion hyper machines. So that it has to be the ultimate goal of AI. How people can be empowered.
Yeah, because if you're left to just a tiny number of people and saying, here's AI and this is what you can do with it, and no one else gets to say, I mean,
that's the worst.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. Even in this country, you could choose any football club. Imagine there's only 3 football clubs.
Yep.
Obviously, I'm a Newcastle fan. We have some Manchester United fans around here and others. but you have all the flavors, the taste, the conversations, everything around it, and people can innovate and create their own interpretations. At the moment, it does seem we're limited to 3 players maybe, and what they say seems to be setting the narrative. I'm not entirely sure that that narrative is as trustworthy as perhaps.
That cannot be the way forward, because if it pans out the way the multinationals have planned out, then I think we lost the game. AI, humanity, I think then we as human, then that game is lost. And when that game is lost, then what will happen is AI will dictate. And then you can, imagine this concept of, you have a kid. Let's say, the parents really positive about AI. ChatGPT is great. Since, year 1, year 3, they start using ChatGPT, and then what will happen is, they wouldn't think any other people's writing, the writings of the teachers are good, or any of the books are good. They'll think the ChatGPT thing is the best. It's so good. It's perfect. And then what they learn is actually AI. So AI will be their teacher teaching them how to write. And then when they grow up, when they see any other text that's not generated by AI, they'll think, oh, that's not very good. And then what happens? They lost their creativity, because I don't think AI is creative.
No.
And then
well, this comes back to the idea of, if you need to prompt it. Now, it's obviously fascinating, powerful, brilliant that you can prompt something and get something back. But the idea that there isn't that space, the creativity could come because of something that you smell, and it reminds you, it triggers something. It could be a word that you read, it could be part of a song that you hear that invokes an emotion. There's an entire universe which is utterly inexplainable, and it is very unique to many people, because we all have different experiences, we all have different abilities and nuances. Now, to interact where you can develop those ideas out and allow that creativity to flow is one thing. But that's not what this is right now. The art of creating a great product is in understanding how to build layer upon layer upon layer, to sit with something and to get some feedback, but you understand very intentfully every single part of every stage through to the mix, when you're like, I want to position the vocals very centrally, I want to position these guitars there, I want the bass to sit underneath, and you're mentally visualizing where these sounds are appearing, and then you look in the science of the frequencies. Now, if you can go, here, result, the magic is the bit in between. Everything about life is the magic in between. And if that is taken away, there are potentially huge ramifications. And if the conclusion that is reached turns out to be hallucinated and wrong, there's no critical thinking to understand how or why. So it will be taken as truth. I mean, that's proper George Orwell stuff. That's 1984. The current leaders of the narrative are very, very well on track to make that happen.
Because they are each creating modes. They want to be the winner of this AI race. But then we need to be aware of this. So this is why this podcast is, the public need to be really deeply aware of the consequences, the direct consequences you just mentioned. So, and that's why control is very important.
So elaborate control, because this is something you've described before, that the power of control in a non-totalitarian sense, but an individual's control with its interaction with AI.
First is the modality of control. So like we mentioned, text, sketch is what we do, but there are many other ways of control, right? Emotion, gestures, body language, And then also, so that's the modalities of input, if you like, right? But also during inference. So when AI is thinking right now, like you said, prompt, result, prompt, result. Where's the in between bit? Where do we come in that inference?
I see what you mean.
That's control.
With no control,
then we become AI. That's it, because you learn to look at the output, and it's, oh, this is brilliant. It is. It's brilliant. And then, oh, this is what I should do. And the more you do that, the more you're trained by AI.
So it seems that on one side, well, there are two sides to it. On one side, trust and truth, and the other side, effectively convenience. Convenience equaling lack of control, trust and truth being the benchmark, the measure and validation of control. And as you know, we're very much about AI with trust and truth, where it's not putting people at risk, it's looking at scale and authenticity and facts, metrics, things that can be understood and described about the logic, and then allowing that logic to do things usefully to aid particular functions on scale, but with accountability. And again, that lack of control is the convenience. So I can see why things are being sold in convenience, because that's the narrative, not what happens if you don't have control.
That's the danger. I think we are the pre-AI generation, right? So we can ask the questions. Now, if there's AI generations coming in, and if they're very much used to the idea of no control, but then the results are amazing, and let me just rely on that, then that's that's end of humanity, So that's why all the questions that we asked so far, privacy, trust, control, democratization, all of that needs to happen. So this is something I firmly believe, as a technical nerd of AI, that AI is not just technical, because it's it's like a human counterpart now. It's almost that friend. What qualities do you want that friend to have? And that friend might be amazing, but no ethics, and the friend has access to all your personal information, knows all the questions that you can ask.
That kind of ties in from a security perspective, and the importance of having your proprietary information kept safe. If everything, and I'm not sure people are entirely aware, all that information is going to their servers all the time. You're literally, by interacting and prompting, helping train it, and you're giving everything away. The idea of the future, and what I understand you're doing, is not having that as an absolute prerequisite anymore, that you can share some stuff if needed, but primarily data privacy. And again, going back to the idea of applying that into the enterprise world, no organization just wants to put all their data into one big shared thing. I mean, we've done experiments with some of this technology to see if independently we can train ChatGPT on, particularly friends of ours, obscure, crazy things. And then people who are not part of the circle ask them to ask ChatGPT about this particular individual. So non-connected in any way or form. It's actually when we were in Iraq at the AI conference, and it learned what we taught it. So if anyone independently asked about this individual, they were a bodybuilding YouTuber with a fake tan, which of course is not true, but they wouldn't know that. And then it hallucinated and made up all these other crazy things, which a YouTuber with a fake tan who's into bodybuilding would probably do. None of it real. But that kind of lends itself to, if we can do that as an experiment, just playing with people that we know, how is this being used? With elections, with businesses? Let's say one company wants to say something about a competitor. Surely this can be utterly weaponized, and is being weaponized.
Absolutely. And also the volume, the speed it generates as well.
Yeah.
Because if previously you want to create some propaganda against somebody or something, then it takes time, no? And you write a piece, about them. It takes time. Right now, you can just ChatGPT can spit out that information, propaganda, like.
And because it's all going back to effectively one place,
Yeah.
and there's one group in charge of that, and we're being told it's got all the information in the world. Well, we know it doesn't, because it doesn't have your bank account details or mine.
Oh, never should. Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
there's all sorts of things that any human individual or business should never and does never publicly and openly share. But that's actually where the valuable data is.
But then if you think about it, it's quite interesting, because I thought about it the other day, right? That's where the humanness is in.
Yeah.
That's the individual, that the AI doesn't have. Right? But if AI takes over, it goes along the direction that the multinationals are taking them, then we're the human animals, because the data sitting on your laptop, on my phone, that's never going anywhere. That's me.
Yeah.
And then that element is now in AI. And then because of that, AI hallucinates, right? It just makes things up.
Yeah.
Or in the wrong hands, you can feed misinformation to it. So it generates something that's not true.
Let's be specific, because I think this is a really critical point. Obviously, I deal with a number of businesses worldwide buying and adopting AI. The hallucinations are specific to a certain type of AI. Can you elaborate on that?
It's mostly the large language models, and then that generates, ChatGPT can generate misinformation, can hallucinate, and then because it is not aware of the context, and that's how the technology works, it generates the next word based on what's been written before. Now, because of that, it doesn't have when we're doing this podcast, we have an idea, like a framework we want to discuss. It doesn't have that. It just spit out the next word. Because of that, then it's spitting out misinformation, it hallucinates. But I think that's probably people not very acutely aware of the damages this can do until the visual AI comes in. And that's a lot more alarming, because people see their faces, there's this revenge porn, all of that. It's very direct. And then this is where then they trigger discussions, right, on the hallucination.
Well, it's emotional, isn't it?
Yeah. So this is really interesting now. So, but then the text though is equally harmful, maybe more. But then it wasn't until the visual elements came in, people start to think about the harms AI can do.
Well, I saw one. I don't know where it is anymore. I'll have to find it at some point. Maybe the guys can put it up on screen. And it was an image, and it had the three main models, sort of 1, 2, 3. Then it had retraining based on its own data. It did it 5 times. All of them started like a photograph. One ended up like a Picasso, but nothing like they began. And you saw the degradation where it just said, "Oh no, this is good."
We have that image if you want.
Oh, okay, yeah. Bring that image up. So there we are. So you see on the left-hand side, that's the original images. And then from a training perspective, as it self-trains, that's what it considers improvement. And again, imagine if that's what your business is based upon.
Yeah, and then another thing is you're not even aware. And this is what I'm trying to say. Is in the visual form, because clearly
It's so obvious.
it's obvious. But what if it is AI decisions?
Yeah.
What if it's text form? It all makes sense. It really is amazing. The data give you is like perfect, right? And the decisions make you like, as executive in a company that uses AI solutions, they might look, oh, it's all making sense to me. But you don't have the visual information, right? It's like you believe that.
We're going to have one of our good friends who's a lawyer, he'll be here next week, but he was explaining in British law, data in an IT system is considered correct. So if we have AI systems knowingly hallucinated, but it's in an IT system, it is considered correct under the letter of the law. And that's why this was allowed. So the deal was much more in a case of international trade. And they knew the system was a bit ropey. They took it in, even though it was representing misinformation, it was miscalculating, which is what the entire issue was. There was technical errors. They knew about it. But there wasn't a provision in the law that could contemplate or consider in any legal form that it couldn't be correct. Apply AI on top of that and think about that.
Alarming.
I'm sure there are more nuances, but our lawyer friend will explain the details. But that is utterly shocking. I mean, he's adamant, he's on Sky News all the time about this, but he's adamant there needs to be a change in the law.
Yep.
Technology's changed, data's changed, AI is now here.
Yep.
But the law doesn't recognise any of that.
Yep.
I mean, you can go down all sorts of rabbit holes of all these things, and each one is mind-blowing.
Yep. And then again, I go back to what I said about the volume of data that AI generates, a volume of potentially fake data. And previously you want to create fake data, it might take you some time, and this time you can just, and then that means the growth of data on IT systems on the internet might go in exponential ways that we've not seen before. And then give it time, then the most negative outcome will be the AI data will have no truth, we have no way of telling, correct or wrong. Then there will be the majority.
And also, if you take the consideration that we would have lost, or the majority would have lost, the ability for critical thinking, because that never happened. There was only conclusion.
Yeah.
The ability to discern real from not real, truth from not truth, is shocking.
Yeah, and that's why these conversations like this are so important. But then we have to make changes. We have to drive those changes.
This is a good point.
Yeah.
I mean, our approach, given that we're from an enterprise background, is about trust and truth and looking at it different and looking at AI as an augmenting capability to deliver accuracy, trust and truth on scale, but rationale, presenting and storytelling rationale, so that there's confidence to actually leverage capabilities of artificial intelligence in a positive manner, whilst also helping part of the interactive educational process of what does good look like, why does good look like this, how do we explore critical thinking and understand more, and then say, right, find me everything which meets this criteria, and go, actually there's all these things that we didn't see, the ability for incredible opportunity, the ability to reduce risk. What is the positive answer? What should people be adopting?
I'm a firm believer that everybody should listen to podcasts like this, and they have to know AI first. They cannot constrain their understanding of AI to the BBCs and CNNs or whatever media that they read or watch. That's the worst thing.
Because it's already dumbed down, isn't it?
Absolutely. You really have to know what AI is. To some extent, the technologies, the limitations of the technologies, the capabilities, privacy concerns, where your data is used. Are you feeding anything to OpenAI, for example? So you have to be aware of that. And after you're aware of that, you can make a decision on how you want to engage. Because otherwise, that decision is not informed.
No.
And that's, I think, where the danger lies. I think after you know the AI, then positives can come out, because you know what you want.
Yeah.
You can dictate, and we should, as humans, we should dictate, no? Because if you think about AI as the augmenting counterpart, then you tell AI what to do. And it shouldn't be just one AI, by the way. It shouldn't be just the ChatGPT, the whatever. It should be your personalized
So it is.
call friend.
So it is turning it into a capability rather than a thing that lives out there
Yep.
that we're allowed to interact with.
Yeah,
So
very well put.
like clothing as well.
Yeah.
We can all wear different. Why do we wear clothing? I mean, that sounds like a very simple,
Yeah.
silly question. But I mean, we have Alazar here with us from Sweden, and he knows in the middle of winter he's not going to wear the same thing as you're going to wear in the Caribbean in summertime. So actually, we're informed by how we accessorize ourselves
that's
and
right.
how we behave and act, where we go, why we do it, probably what we eat, what we drink, and we have choices. We're probably not even as cognizant of the choices that we have, but we make huge amounts of choices all of the time.
Yep.
Interactions with what we enjoy. One of our lads is a Chelsea fan. When he goes to Chelsea, depending on what time of year it is, then fashion will come into it in the sense that he'll put his Chelsea jacket and Chelsea top on, but it still may be cold, so he'll have his scarf. And then he's going to go to the pub with some of the other fans. And there's all these aspects that we don't think of, but are critical. And it's part life, part culture, part expression, part functional. Commerce is obviously engaged in that in some manner. If we look at AI perhaps in that manner, then that's more of a capability and an extension rather than here's what it is, this is how it works, this is what you've got to do, don't question it.
Yep. So the clothing metaphor is actually quite interesting. So it's almost like we have 4 uniforms now, in the sense of like this openly available AI tools. Everybody need to wear one. Wouldn't that be disaster?
That'd be so boring as well, wouldn't it?
So but then that's exactly I think what's going on now. And that's why, again, I think AI literacy is really important. The public need to know.
Because it goes to code as well. I mean, this is a potentially scary thing. I mean, I've predicted for years that it would take over a swathe of jobs in the same way that technology took out traditional city traders. The old trading floor became a thing of the past. Developers. If things are developing themselves, I mean, we know that the world of finance is extremely regulated. The SEC, the FCA, FINRA, and on the point that you need to make accountability for a trade, you could make a trade instinctively, but if you can't verify why, if you're questioned and you can't explain your thought, there is a requirement to display your logic and your thinking. What do we have here?
Well, given the technology that's behind AI, which is deep learning that you mentioned, it's very much a black box. So it's very hard for even the most technical to drill into the black box and tell you to have answers to things that you just mentioned.
So how do you put that, given that statement, in a world that is, and must be regulated?
They don't play together.
They're not compatible, are they?
Exactly. So I'm seeing all the latest advances in AI. That's my job. It's going so fast. So fast, much faster than the world of AI that I knew. Because all the resources are going there, the 500 billion, the 14 billion from the UK, all of that is going in. And the data has been accumulated on the internet for decades. And then you have to compute there. So this recipe has never been there before.
Of course, we must also trust everything on social media and the internet. We all know that's true.
Of course. So it could be a recipe for a betterment of humanity, of course. Can also be a recipe for disaster. So everybody should start thinking and knowing AI, what the boundaries are, what they should do.
Neural networks, knowledge graphs, I suppose vision-based AI, large language models, they're all terms that have their pros and cons, and obviously there will be advancements, but understanding that foundational element, at what point is there something which is just not acceptable? And if you're adopting it into your life, are you aware of the things that you would not consider acceptable? As you said, a pathological lying friend, you wouldn't invite them into your life as a friend and trust them and rely upon them if you knew they were predisposed to lie all the time. From a personal standpoint, I'm just fascinated to know, how did you end up here today? Where was the beginning?
So I'm always a STEM student. So never so much into languages. I'm always into math and physics and chemistry. And there was this evening, my mom came to my classroom. I was like, "Mom, why are you here?" I was like, "So you're taking a scholarship exam." I was like, "Where?" "To the UK." I was like, "Okay, fine." And then we flew to Beijing the day after, took the exam, came back, and then after a few days, and I was told I got a scholarship. That was to University of St. Andrews.
Okay.
So I got in, and then my next flight out of my hometown was to London.
Right.
Yeah. And then I study computer science.
But how was that?
It was quite interesting. So the first thing I remember is looking up and then look at the sky and thinking, it's the same sky, And I was very young back then, right? So yeah, and then that was something I vividly remember. And then I was just what a good student does. I mean, I always just got into computer science. And my first, my final year project, that was University of Bath. I was very interested in image panoramas. So how can you take a few photos, which is available on your phones now, right? A few photos, and then stitch them together to form a larger photo.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's what I did 2003. And obviously now it's in everybody's phones. And
It is the pano shots.
exactly. And then I wanted to become a banker.
That's it.
That's it. Yeah, I thought I got a first class degree of Bath, and very confident. I thought I can achieve anything. And then I thought, maybe I should become a banker. And then I went to University of Cambridge. I got into Cambridge, and I thought, okay, I should become a banker. After that, and then I got into a research project again, which is using neural networks.
Right.
Which is very early back then. So which then nobody cares about neural networks, right? To recognize objects. So I was very early in using neural networks to do object recognition. And then I got so fascinated by this, really addicted to the project. And then I did a really good job and won the best dissertation award that year at Cambridge. And I thought, what? I quite like this. So I gave up the idea of becoming a banker, got into research. So yeah, the rest is history. So I've got a PhD, and then my PhD is really, really interesting as well. My PhD, I was one of the first to study how to turn an image into abstract art.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah. So it's image into Picasso paintings, Kandinsky. That's a really abstract art. And then because I always thought a human element. So what would be the best way to study the relationship between AI and humanity is through art.
Yeah.
Because a lot of art is not about the technique. I mean, music, it's not about the technique, right? It's only a few limited instruments, a few limited ways you can mix a track. But what's that human thing in it? And then that's why I did PhD. So that then took me to establishing the SketchX Lab after I finished my PhD. Is to dig even deeper into this control of this human AI interaction. And yeah,
expression in a way, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Yeah,
there is a huge link. I mean, people often say, well, why are you building tech companies with AI when you went to art college? And why into music? Well, it's the same thing. It's understanding, it's observing and understanding cause and effect based on emotion and feeling, but emotion and feeling can be measured. To me, music and art and math, well, they are just the same thing.
And then go back to the very first question you asked me. So how should people think about AI? Like I said, is that counterpart to human that acts and behaves like a human, but should no longer be human. And then that bit, the no longer be human, is basically about a boundary, right? It's like, that boundary is where control give you. It's about AI literacy will give you. And then so that when people have that context, that awareness, they can then say, look, I want to wear this, this, and this. I do not want to wear that uniform, that of ChatGPT or whatever.
What do you think the next 3 years looks like?
Democratized AI. Democratized, inclusive AI must be the way forward. Because we talk about the speed, how AI develops nowadays, all the resources going in, the money, the talents, the data, the compute. We have to act fast. And we have to influence fast. We have to progress. As humanity, we have to keep up or even lead. So AI should be run on local machines in a private manner. Your data should be intact. You should not be uploading your prompts and images, documents. Maybe there's problems where recording your meetings with AI and then asking AI to summarize. That's all very convenient, superbly convenient. But think about where that data goes. And how that data is used. This can be a really important meeting of a corporate decision you could make, and all of a sudden, that data is somewhere else, which then can be passed to somebody else.
And often with that, it'll go in, but it's using the same model. So it's literally going into one big ocean, which is exposed to everyone.
Yeah.
And that's what I don't think people
That's
realize.
Right. And then when you use ChatGPT even, your prompts is you. That's the only bit that's you. You are putting you to the cloud.
There's a fascinating thing, talking about an example of where this risk of giving yourself away and falsely believing you hold views and opinions. If you ask anyone of a certain generation, several of which are in the room, beyond a certain date, are never exposed to anything that existed prior to 10 years ago. They would be consuming music on an algorithmic basis. So they'd have a choice, give them a baseline, and would go a few degrees left and right. But that's a tiny little sliver of all music that existed. But they believed that was most of the music that was out there. Effectively a more basic AI algorithm. And it took a while to observe the consequence of personalized playlists and the impact on the creation of music. Horrifically bad.
And this is very much what was trying to convey. Our kids, when they are exposed to AI tools that could just give them a result that is like of a certain standard, then they will write like AI.
So, and the thing is, problem is everyone's going to end up writing like ChatGPT, and then who are they? Who are these people? Who you can't say who are you.
But you see, that's the thing, because I know lawyers, they're starting to use something called Harvey now, and then their take is, look, there's always be senior lawyers who can then fact check, who can then introduce a style to a draft which was produced by Harvey, the ChatGPT version of for lawyers. But senior lawyers, they retire.
Yeah, when you say they can do it,
Yeah.
doesn't mean they does do it. And they could do that. Yeah.
Yeah, but when they retire, when this AI generation of lawyers become senior ones,
Yeah. Problems.
can they still check?
That knowledge retention doesn't happen. So this constant drop-off of knowledge,
Yeah.
what we're talking about here is a monumental, all-encompassing knowledge drop-off.
Humanity level, yeah.
Without the capability to recover that.
Yep.
I mean, we see this again in music. 10 years ago, as we said before, name one global superstar from the last decade. And you can't say Ed Sheeran before, can't say Adele before, Sam Smith before, Eminem before, Taylor Swift before. So we're seeing it, we're seeing the warning signs. And the world is going headfirst into it. It's potential insanity.
Yeah.
Madness.
Well,
on that note.
on that bombshell.
Exactly. It's a pleasure having you here.
Well, thank you very much, Graham.
Yeah, we'll talk again in the future.
Brilliant.
Wonderful. Thank you.